Jalen Milroe was QB4 and a third-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. On today's episode, we're going to make the case and tell you why we believe he can be the future behind Sam Darnold for Seattle Seahawks. This and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an offensive draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is a director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, guys, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Jalen Milroe. Is he the QB of the future for the Seattle Seahawks? We're going to make the case for that. Then we're going to talk about the confidence in Will Howard with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then finish out our divisional grades with the NFC East. Giants, Cowboys, all those teams, the Eagles, I'm going to call them the old name, the Commanders. We're going to talk about them in just a minute. But before that, this episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. QB4 in the 2025 NFL Draft and a third-round pick. But he's a top 100 pick as well. Jalen Milroe, the quarterback out of Alabama, Keith, and you got Sam Darnold there. They brought back, I think, who was it? Was it Drew Lock, maybe? I think it was Drew Lock. They signed as a free agent, as a backup, and then getting Jalen Milroe in round 3. Like I said, spent a top 100 pick on him. Is he the future, Keith? Is he the future for the Seattle Seahawks?
I think he's in position to be, right? If you talk about they signed Sam Darnold to a long-term deal, you take a top 100 pick on a quarterback with nothing but upside. I think the setup is for that, right? And the setup is that if Sam Darnold has a ceiling to him, right? Because we're still trying to figure out who is the real Sam Darnold, right? If he has a ceiling to him that's average quarterback in the NFL, I think that they're going to try to insert Jalen Milroe to see if they can pull out the upside stuff with him. And so I think Jalen is the quarterback of the future for the Seattle Seahawks. You don't take him as a top 100 pick and not believe that he can evolve or develop into something. I wouldn't be surprised also if they use him as a wrinkle part of the offense this year, right? Like if they want to go to some kind of wildcat QB power, QB run stuff, put him in the game just to start letting him get accustomed. But also, Seattle is one of those organizations that usually handles things right. And I think this is a good spot for Jalen.
Yeah, I think it is as well. The OC Clint Kubiak, Sam Darnold's used to that scheme. So I think Sam Darnold is going to be a above average, more than adequate starter for them, long as they protect him, which was why they selected Grady Zabel at 18. And I think to be honest, if for Jalen Milroe's future and for him to be the future, I think it really is, it hinges on the success level in year 1 or in 2025 of Sam Darnold. I think for him, I'd rather Sam Darnold play well so I'm not rushed out there before I'm ready. You know what I mean? I'd rather him be able to sit, watch, and really learn this offense. This is going to be a different offense than he ever ran at Alabama. Under center stuff, play action, you get some naked boot action. It's all about that West Coast type of offense. Kyle Shanahan's the guy who he doesn't like the tools quarterbacks because the big arm quarterbacks we saw with RG3 his rookie year is like, do I take that flat for a 2-3 yard gain, or do I pivot and throw this post off the backside for a 60-yarder? RG3 would throw the post. Kyle Shanahan wasn't the biggest fan of it because it's like, well, I told you to hit the flat. Well, we just scored a 60-yard touchdown. I don't know how I'm arguing about that, but that's what that offense is kind of schemed for. Is like to give you the easy, just check downs, the easy throws, let the guys make the plays for you after the catch, and just being on time. And I think for Jalen Milroe to just master that, to learn it from holding the clipboard, listening to the starter quarterback and the OC and the head coach talk things through. But to your point, just like the connection to Baltimore, when Lamar Jackson was drafted, they used him in spurts with his legs and created packages for him until it was time, I think late in the season, I believe Joe Flacco was still a quarterback.
Yeah.
He ended up getting hurt, and then Lamar had to take the reins from there and everything. So yeah, I think we will see a package for him. I think with Jalen Milroe, is he the future? I think they want him to be. I absolutely think they want him to be. And I think with, like you said, they do things. It's crazy enough. They're a small media market. So like the media, but it's different going to the Giants. And the moment Russell Wilson or Jameis screws up, the fans in that arena, 70,000 loud, are calling for you to get into the game. And we know how we've seen it time and time again with these NFL organizations. They don't have the thickest skin. They fold under pressure. You know what I mean?
They listen to the noise.
They listen to the noise, and they should be blocking it out. Like you the top, the biggest league in the world right now. Like you should be ignoring fans. Like just listen to your fans from a ticket sales perspective. Like, you know what I mean? But if they're still coming to games, they're just mad because you don't put in Jalen Milroe. Like ignore them. Stick with your plan. And I think Mike McDonald is going to draft. I believe they drafted him with a plan, and that is to let him develop and let him sit. So I think he absolutely could be the future there. And like I said, let Sam Darnold get this year. Hopefully he plays well so that you get to see like everything you need to see from a bird's eye perspective, from a 90-foot perspective. Step back, watch it, and learn.
Yeah, and also I'll say this, that the Seattle Seahawks have some good pieces in place, right? Like he'll be learning not only from Sam Darnold, but with a veteran in Cooper Kupp, right? Like that's going to be a huge thing for him. And then they have a run game with all of the running backs that they've drafted over the past 3-4 years. So they have a run game. They try to upgrade the offensive line, like you said, drafting Gray Zabo, but then also the guys that they've spent draft picks on in the past. So it puts them in a fairly decent spot. And we always talk about this, DP, is are you ready to develop a quarterback, right? And I forgot about their tight ends. They have Noah Fant and Elijah Arroyo, which Noah Fant was my comp for Elijah Arroyo.
Elijah Arroyo, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny that they're on the same exact team.
Now, when I was doing the live show on Friday night, we had I think it was Friday. No, it was Saturday. Quincy Avery called in. We had Quincy Avery on the stream, and I asked him about because he has his experience with the Seattle Seahawks organization because of Geno Smith, him training and coaching Geno Smith as his personal QB coach. And I asked him about Jalen Milroe, and he basically was kind of saying a similar thing. He was basically talking about like how he was like, yeah, Milroe is mechanically he's a little further away than you would like him to be right now. That's why I agree. Like that's why Sam Darnold playing well is so beneficial for him, because then you can iron out the footwork and just to get the muscle memory down and things like that, to where sometimes and kids, when I'm watching Milroe, at times his upper body and lower body are not married together. His upper body is so fast twitch, or so it moves, and his feet doesn't always follow, or his feet goes one way and his eyes are pointed somewhere else where he wants to throw, and that leads to an inaccuracy, putting the ball in harm's way. You get everything married together, everything in synchronized. With Jalen Milroe, you have yourself a dynamic weapon that can launch the ball. He has the launch codes to uncork that 50, 60, 70-yard bomb down the field. But also you get that short to intermediate confidence built up in him and really establishing that. That's why I think I honestly love his potential in Clint Kubiak's offense, this West Coast offense. We never got to see Trey Lance develop in that Kyle Shanahan offense. And for me, it's like that's why I was so enamored by that pick, because I was like, man, this West Coast offense makes quarterbacks' lives easier. Same way we always talk about, man, that wide zone stretch game makes running backs' lives easier. It's the same thing for quarterbacks. Like, so they're willing to run the ball, change the math, in the secondary, things of that nature. You get Jalen Milroe comfortable in this West Coast Clint Kubiak style type of offense, and he takes over, whether it's 2026 or 2027, and you got a guy with a big arm, elite athlete and running ability, but then he starts hitting the short to intermediate and forcing defenses to play him honest, and now you got yourself a problem.
Yep, I agree 100% with that. With DP, let's talk about another young quarterback that at this point he's QB2, right? And that's Will Howard with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, Mason Rudolph is there, and they're trying to figure out if Aaron Rodgers is coming or not. Let's talk about Will Howard, the confidence in Will Howard. What could Will Howard do? Is this a perfect fit? Pennsylvania kid in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh. Is this set up to be a success story? We're going to talk about Will Howard and what he can do with the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up next.
Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25 and Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. Already have a console? A Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable, and easier to travel with, allowing you to take your kids' games wherever you plug in. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. The Pittsburgh Steelers selected Will Howard in the 6th round, I believe. Yeah, sixth round, ninth pick in the 6th round. He was QB8 in the 2025 NFL draft, Keith. And I think them passing on Shedeur multiple times, passing on Will Howard multiple times, and then getting him in the 6th round, I think it all but basically stamps that Aaron Rodgers will be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers for the 2025 NFL season. You don't make those type of moves unless you feel comfortable. I don't think, they brought back Mason Rudolph, who was with the Tennessee Titans last year. He's back. So you got Mason Rudolph and Will Howard currently under contract. Well, whenever he signs his rookie contract. And then you're just waiting on Aaron Rodgers. I believe Aaron Rodgers is going to be the guy. Keith, how confident, and I'm going to throw this out there to you. I saw a quote. It popped up on the Bleacher Report app via The Athletic. The Pittsburgh sources from the Pittsburgh Steelers have said post-draft they were never going to draft Shedeur Sanders, that they have their eyes panned on the 2026 QB class, or the QB class for the 2026 NFL draft. When you hear that, Keith, how confident in this situation do you believe Will Howard will actually get the chance to prove himself to the Steelers?
That's tough, right? Because you just mentioned that quote. But you got to be where your feet are, right? And that's that we have an entire season coming up. I think it's going to be interesting, DP, because I think the momentum built around Will Howard. I think if he gets to training camp and he has the opportunity to make a couple throws, I think the fan base could get excited, right? And we know that storylines also sell, right? As far as, like we said, him being a hometown kid in front of the hometown fans, right? And they'll think that that's a cool story. And then there is talent there. And I'll say this again, and even past him being a 6th round pick, I like Will Howard as a quarterback. I think there's a lot there to pull out and develop, point blank, period. It's just a matter of getting opportunity. Now, the other part is this. He may get a lot of opportunity early because we don't know when Aaron Rodgers is showing up. Aaron Rodgers may show up week 1 of the season, right? Like, you don't know. It might be another retreat for him to where he doesn't come for training camp. And so now it's him and Mason Rudolph splitting reps. And then what if they make the decision like, hey, we just going to roll with the young guy? Like, there's so many different ways that this thing can unfold that I think Will Howard is going to get a shot at the end of the day because of how, I'm going to call it dysfunctional. And that's something that I never thought I would say about the Steelers franchise, but how dysfunctional this thing is with the quarterback situation with Aaron Rodgers, that I think Will Howard is going to have plenty of opportunity and plenty of reps to prove himself and then to kind of put himself in position to showcase his skill set.
Yeah, I think, like, to your point, we don't know when Aaron Rodgers is going to show up. Usually veteran quarterbacks don't really like mandatory anything. They like to show up in training camp, later in training camp, stuff like that. I know there was a report that there was video clips that were taken down of him already training with DK Metcalf and throwing the DK Metcalf, getting that chemistry down pat, so forth and so on. So, yeah, if Aaron Rodgers, and I wouldn't be shocked if we get some like days off because he's a 39-year-old veteran quarterback and you want to rest his body during camp. And then you got Mason Rudolph and Will Howard being able to get majority of those reps. I think when I saw, like, prior to us doing this show, and before I saw that quote, I was like, yeah, I think, Will, I feel confident that they probably drafted him. Like, you know what, he gets to sit behind Rudolph, who could be a good mentor and tutor to him, and then of course Aaron Rodgers. And I doubt they keep Aaron Rodgers longer than 2025. I don't expect Aaron Rodgers to be there in 2026, especially because he's already been like having discussions about, oh, maybe I retire. Like, whenever they're talking like that, there's a phrase in the NFL, when the guy's already talking about retirement, he's retired.
He's already
retired.
What I mean? Yep.
He's already retired. So I don't think he's going to be there post 2025. But I do think, and remember that we did a show probably a couple weeks ago prior to the draft, and it was like, we talked the trades episode. He was like, just mock trades. And he was like, the Steelers should trade up, go get their quarterback. And I was like, no, don't do that. Do the Aaron Rodgers thing, get the draft capital. Then next year, trade your assets and go get your quarterback. I honestly think there's a chance that they might actually do that in 2026 if they don't give Will Howard enough throws in camp to really showcase what he can do. And I think I was talking to a scouting buddy of mine. We were talking about Will Howard, and we both kind of saw him the same. Like, man, like, he can play. He's got accuracy, big, give you plus stuff in the run game. The question, I think my comp for him is either Mason Rudolph or Blake Bortles. When I really watched them, and I was like, okay, the arm talent, I wanted it to be stronger than what it is. The arm talent leaves me wanting a little bit more, but I was like, everything else I like about the kid. And it's crazy to come off a national championship run and be selected in the 6th round. Like, that's nuts to me. I'm sorry. That is nuts.
No, it's definitely crazy. It's definitely something, and I think that's what this draft with the quarterbacks, it kind of left you head scratching, right? Like, and I think this is what I think happens. And that's why you just kind of have to have conviction in how you feel about players, and then just kind of keep it moving, is that the NFL moves the goalposts for their own selves, right? I think all of the media, what I've noticed is that the media tries to get as close to the NFL as possible, right? They're like, oh, if the NFL did this, then that's right. And then the NFL is constantly moving the goalposts. So then you have the NFL constantly moving their own goalposts, and then the media moving the goalposts based off what the NFL is doing. That's why there are never any set standards, right? Like, that's why I sit here with head scratching moments like, wait, y'all liked him last year, but don't like him. But those guys kind of do the same thing. I'm confused, right? And that's why you end up in that position. So I think it'll be fun to see what Will Howard does. And I mean, in Pittsburgh, if you get Aaron Rodgers, the goal is to win, right? And is to win a lot and potentially Super Bowl, right? And so basically you're putting yourself at pick 32. And if you need a quarterback of the future, how many first rounders is it going to take to move up from pick 32 to pick number 1 to the selection that you want? It's probably going to take a good 4 or 5, because you're not just asking a team to move from pick 1 to pick 8. You're asking them to basically go to the 2nd round. And it's probably a team that needs a quarterback that's going to be at the very top. So that's going to be very interesting too when you break that down.
No, I mean 100%. I think the best bet for Pittsburgh in that scenario is that a team, the Falcons won't have a first round pick because they traded to get up the JPJ. But if the Falcons had a first round pick, they drafted Michael Penix. They're comfortable with that, and you're like, okay, you don't need a quarterback, right? Or the Tennessee Titans having a bad year, and they're like, yeah, we could use as much draft capital as possible because this team still has a lot of holes. So it's like, yeah, we got Cam Ward last year. We don't mind trading down, and especially in the class that's projected to be better and deeper at like wide receiver, at quarterback, tackles, stuff like that on the offensive line. Yeah, you can see a lot more. You can see teams, and we fast forward if things hold true. Teams will be looking to start moving up and down the board. It's like, yeah, you want to come get a quarterback? Let me get that quarterback tax. Send me those 2 first rounders, that 2nd for this year, 2nd next year. I'll be completely happy with that, and I get that king's ransom. But I do think for Will Howard, the best thing for him to do now is before the veterans get there, get in the rookie minicamp and tear it up. Like, learn, be the student. Play, move, and operate with confidence. The same thing you did, at Ohio State. You know what I mean? Give Arthur Smith a reason to believe in you, and that's going to be his best bet. So then, once Aaron Rodgers gets there and all that, the circus that's the media surrounded him, you take every day and like it's cliche, but you prepare every day like a starter. Will Howard, just do that. And your main competition isn't Aaron Rodgers. Your main competition is Mason Rudolph. Go out there and beat Mason Rudolph out for QB2, and then from there, anything is possible, right? We've seen Aaron Rodgers play some pretty bad football over the last really over last year. He got hurt 5 minutes into his debut the first year with the Jets, and then last year he wasn't good to the point Garrett Wilson was like, I want out of here. If y'all bring this man back, I want to be traded. So yeah, if I'm Will Howard, I think I have confidence in him. It's more so now, can you beat out Mason Rudolph for that QB2 spot, that where you can potentially position yourself to showcase enough in camp with reps to keep the 2026 QB class at bay. Because if they don't have to draft a QB next year, they can go best player available, add more pieces to the roster to help you out. But if they don't give you that opportunity, it could be kind of dark for them, because I can see that team saying, you know what, this class is better. We got to get up there. There's a couple teams that already have QBs. Let's go get our guy.
Yep, I could see that, DP. Let's do this, man. Let's go ahead and grade one of the most explosive divisions, the NFC East, the Cowboys, Commanders, Giants, and Eagles. We're going to hand out draft grades to wrap up the show. Coming up next, NFC East, we're handing out draft grades.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Draft grades for the NFC East. We're going to close this thing out for the 2025 NFL Draft. At pick 31 in the first round, the Philadelphia Eagles selected Jihad Campbell, linebacker / edge from Alabama. At pick 64, they selected Andrew Makuba, safety from Texas. At pick 111, Ty Robinson, defensive tackle from Nebraska. At pick 145, Mac McWilliams, corner from UCF. 161, they selected another Georgia linebacker, Smile Munden Jr. At 168, Drew Kendall, center. At 181, Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord. At 191, Michigan, I believe it's Michigan offensive tackle Miles Hinton. 207, Cameron Williams, tackle from Texas. And then at 209, Antoine Powell-Ryland, edge rusher from Virginia Tech. Keith, what grade do you give the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning defending Super Bowl champions?
Oh, I give them a A-. I thought this was a good draft, DP. I thought this was a good draft for reigning Super Bowl champs. They traded up one spot, got Jihad Campbell. Andrew Makuba, somebody I really, really like, and a good replacement for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Ty Robinson is getting him in the fourth round. They didn't have a third round pick. They got him in the fourth round. He was one of my guys, right? And then I think that's the best way to put it. Like, I just like the way that they play football. Interior defensive lineman / edge, picking him up. High motor guy, Mac McWilliams. We've seen him at the Senior Bowl play well. But then the middle rounds, this is why I don't give it an A+. I'm not a particular fan of the Small Mundan Drew Kendall situation, right? I'm not sure where that's going to go, but I thought that they cleaned up well with Kyle McCord in the 6th, and then also getting Antoine Powell-Ryland in the 6th was one of the edge rushers that I say is one of the best, to me, one of the better edge rushers in the draft.
I think the Cameron Williams pick could be a one that we look back and like, man, like that was a really good pick for them, because you get him, who we know is physically capable, and you take him to Stoutland University. You take him to get coached up by Jeff Stoutland, the best offensive line coach in the NFL. And we've seen him take a guy who was a rugby player and turn him into a multi-millionaire left tackle. You know what I mean? Like he's coached guys up at every single position on that offensive line. Mekhi Becton getting him switched from playing left tackle to playing right guard, something he really didn't have much experience playing in the NFL. And he was a home run move for them. So I think Cam Williams and Hinton, I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out. The Kyle McCord one was interesting because they were already getting calls up from teams wanting Tanner McKee, who's their backup quarterback. I think they set themselves up with another backup quarterback where they could potentially trade off Tanner McKee this offseason. Or if a team starter goes down midseason and they say, listen, we want Tanner, all right, great. Send me a third. And they get a third round pick, and you still have a good, capable quarterback in Kyle McCord. So I give them an A- as well, Keith. I think they did a good job. Let's look at the New York Giants. They had very top Abdul Carter with the 3rd overall pick, edge out of Penn State. They traded back up to get Jackson Dart, quarterback from Ole Miss. They selected Darius Alexander, defensive tackle from Toledo. They got the people's champion, Cam Scatterbull, running back from Arizona State. At 154, they selected Marcus Bow, offensive lineman from Purdue. They got my guy Thomas Fadone II, tight end out of Nebraska at 219. Then they went and got cornerback Corey Black at 246. Keith, I give them a B plus for the most part. I love that. Of course, Abdul. I love Darius Alexander. Cam Scatterboo pairs well with Tyrone Tracy. Marcus Bow can come in and working into that guard spot. Fedone gives them a developmental tight end with good athleticism and pass catching upside. The reason why it's not an A for me is Jackson Dart at 25. I'm not really a fan. I wasn't a big fan of Jackson Dart. I'm not a Jackson Dart guy. Tools to me are average, maybe above average at best, arm talent wise, mobility. I think he does throw with good, a nice feathery touch, knows how to layer the passes. But to move back up, I don't think, some people say, oh, they were moving up in front of the Rams. Could have been, but that's a move I wasn't really, when it happened, I was like, tough. That's a tough call for me. So luckily, I don't think they gave up their first round pick for next year. I don't believe so. I think they might still have that first rounder. I got to look at the details, but overall, B plus. I think I like what they did overall. Like you said, just wasn't a big fan of the Jackson Dart move.
Yeah. I mean, for most of the same things you said, DP, I'm going to go with B. I obviously love Abdul Carter. They drafted a quarterback. I thought that they filled positional needs. They needed a running back. They got Cam Scatterboo in the 4th round. And then I think that Darius Alexander and Marcus and Bow pick, I think those are going to be starters in the trenches that they was able to get later in the draft.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And potentially, Keith, we might see a trade for for Kayvon Thibodeau. They might go ahead and trade off Thibodeau now that they have Abdul Carter. They have a lot of flexibility, to be completely honest. They have a ton of flexibility. But Keith, let's go to the Washington Commanders. First round, they selected Josh Connolly, offensive tackle from Oregon. Round 2, they took Trey Amos, cornerback from Ole Miss. They did not have a third. They selected in the 4th round, Jalen Lane, the explosive wide receiver from Va Tech. Round 6, Kane Madrano, linebacker from UCLA. And round 7, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, RB from Arizona. Keith, I give them they didn't have a lot of picks, so I give them a B. Give them a solid B. The Josh Connolly one was, I would have liked to see a receiver earlier, to be honest. I think Luther Burden was right there, and then you could have maneuvered yourself. You had a 2nd round pick, you could have maneuvered and got you another tackle. But knowing that they didn't need corner, getting Trey Amos, round 2 was a big steal for me. And then I've seen a little bit of Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. Getting him in the 7th round, he was hurt it was like a eligibility issue that kept him out of the off of the team. He couldn't play in 2024. So you're getting a running back that's really talented and his body is fresh. He went a whole year without getting hit, so from, in college football. So I think getting themselves another running back and getting the guy with a little bit more juice. I think his running style fits so much better with Jaden Daniels than Brian Robinson. So I give him a B.
Yeah, I go with a C plus, DP. I like Connolly, right? But obviously we have to worry about the length and size issues. And I wonder if he's going to be a tweener guy for them. And I know they probably drafted him, obviously to play tackle, right? And potentially be the blindside protector. Trey Amos, I think, is a solid pick. And then they didn't have a third one. So then now you're wrapping up with Jalen Lane, Kane Madrano, and Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was, you're talking about putting pieces together to help Jaden Daniels take that next step. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was a great draft.
Yeah, they did solid. I think some of those picks came. I think Krosky Merritt, I think, ended up being their starting running back. And then I'm interested to see what they do with Jalen Lane. I think he's a guy that could be special team ace for them, but also gives you a lot of explosiveness, after the catch. So definitely be interesting to see how everything pans out. And I think, Keith, we close up with them boys. I think we're closing up with them boys. I think we hit the Giants, we hit the Eagles, we got the Commanders. Let's finish up with those Dallas Cowboys. Round 1, Tyler Booker, guard out of Alabama. Round 2, Donovan Ezeroku, edge out of Boston College. Round 3, Siobhan Revel, cornerback from East Carolina, ECU. At round 5, Jaden Blue, the explosive pass-catching running back from Texas. Round 5, linebacker out of Florida, Shamar James. Round 6, Johnny Cornelius, offensive lineman from Oregon. Round 7, run-stuffing defensive tackle, Jay Toya. And then another round 7 pick in Phil Maffa, running back out of Clemson. Keith, I give the Dallas Cowboys, I give them a B plus. I actually like what they did. I know they brought in Miles Sanders, they got Javonte Williams, but I think the value of getting two running backs two young guys that pair very well with each other to be that thunder lightning combo, if you give them the opportunity on day 3, I think that was great. Getting Phil Maffa, I think if Phil Maffa wasn't hurt with the shoulder to be able to go to the Senior Bowl and everything that he planned on doing and test and run and everything, he would have been drafted a little bit higher. But getting him and Jaden Blue, I love that pairing to be their potential future of the backfield. But getting Tyler Booker round 1, Donovan Ezoroku, and then Siobhan Revel addressing 3 big needs on this on this team, offensive line. So now it's a situation. You got Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe at center, and Tyler Booker. That's a physical 1, 2, 3 punch, 3-man punch on the interior of the offensive line. Ezoroku coming in to get some more juice off the edge and pair well with Micah Parsons, and then Siobhan Revel. Once he's healthy, man, like you got yourself a legit CB1 caliber corner to pair with Trayvon Diggs and put maybe Deron Bland kicks down into nickel to replace Jordan Lewis. I like what they did. I give them a B plus.
Yeah, I look at it, DP, and I say this, that the back end of the draft to me was better than the front end for them. To get Shamar James, a linebacker, I really like. I think Cowboys fans have been looking for a linebacker. I think he can play linebacker for them. And then you need interior defensive line help. They cleaned up with Jay Toa and Tommy Aking Basodi. And then, like you said, the running back situation with Jaden Blue and Phil Maffa. Phil Maffa could be that in between the tackle stumper for them. So the back end of the draft, to me, like starting with round 5, I thought that they did really well as far as when they picked up guys, as far as getting value out of them. And then obviously I like the Donovan Ezoroku pick in round 2. So I look at the Cowboys and I give them a solid B. Because I was, I like Tyler Booker, just didn't love him that high. And then Siobhan Revel, I think he's the biggest wild card, right? Well, one of the bigger wild cards in the draft is because we just don't have a lot of data points on them, health, things like that. But it did address a positional need because you need somebody to step in for Stephon Diggs. But the issue is, I think he's coming off the same injury that Stephon Diggs is coming off of, right? So there's hope that the team doctors get everything situated with their cornerback position. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all can talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available, guys. On Monday, at Bleach Report, we dropped a way too early 2026 NFL mock draft. Who says it's too early for mock drafts? We're going to come and we're going to talk about that mock. And I wasn't a part of it, so I get to actually dive into it and critique my colleagues over at Bleach Report because I was still in New York when they wrote this up. So we're going to talk about that 2026 mock draft. See where some of the top quarterbacks are, corners, O-line, receivers. We have a lot of conversations to get into. So that's going to come up on Monday. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.